Okay, hello everybody and welcome to our geography lesson today. My name is Mr. Antal and we're going to be continuing our learning on the geography of Brazil, which has been hopefully very exciting so far. Today in our lesson, we're going to be looking at some of the interesting cities in Brazil. So let's get started. Just going to share the screen. So our lesson today is going to look a little bit like this. We're going to recap those 7 continents of the world, and you've been doing really well at those so far. We're going to think about where Brazil is within South America. We're going to be looking at some of the main cities within Brazil, and then we're going to zoom in and do a focus or a case study on Rio de Janeiro. And then we're going to consider how cities in Brazil are similar or different to those cities in the UK. So before we begin for today, you're going to need some paper or your workbook, a pen or pencil, and most importantly, as always, going to need your brain. So if you're missing any of those things, pause the video and go and grab them now. Okay, so let's begin our lesson. First challenge for you today to see if you can remember all 7 continents of the world. Now we've been working on them for a little while and I'm going to pose a challenge. I want to see if you can name them all in 30 seconds, or for a harder challenge, can you write them all down in 2 minutes? So you're going to pause the video and see if you can say or write down the name of those continents in the time given. Here they are. So pause the video and have a go. Good luck. Okay, let's see how you got on. I'm sure you did amazing. So first of all, we have that yellow one. What's that yellow one? North America. Well done. Next we have Africa, the orange one in the middle there. Then it's Asia, Australia. Remember the 2 other names, that one? Australasia or Oceania. Antarctica at the bottom there. And it's Europe in the northern hemisphere. And then finally, our continent where we find Brazil, the one that we've been looking at, is South America. So well done. Give yourself a pat on the back for all of those that you got right. If you've missed any, then that's okay. If you want to pause the video, you can fill those in now. So those are our 7 continents of the world. Okay, and in our unit, we're looking at Brazil. So we are zooming in on the continent of South America, which is where Brazil is located. Now, next challenge. We know there's 12 different countries within the continent of South America. So can you name any of those countries, or have a think about maybe some of those countries that are bordering or surrounding Brazil that we've talked about in our lessons so far? So pause the video and I want you to say or write down as many South American countries as you can remember. Off you go. Okay, let's see how well you managed to remember those different countries in South America. So here's our map of South America with all of those countries. So we've got Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, Brazil, which is a country that we are focusing on, and French Guiana. Remember, that's just a territory of France. It's just a part of France, so it's not its own country. Suriname and Guyana. So well done if you got any of those. If you missed any and you want to pause the video, you can write down or say some of those now. Okay, great work. So now our geography brains are all warmed up. We're going to zoom in on the country of Brazil. And we're going to be looking today at some of the cities in Brazil. Now, Brazil is a huge country with lots of different cities within it. We're going to look at just some of those cities today and pick out some of those human and physical features that we can see in those cities. So, the first one, which might be familiar with us, is the capital. Can anybody remember the name of the capital of Brazil? It's Brasilia. Well done if you remembered that one. So Brasilia is located in central Brazil. So more or less in the middle of the country. There it is on the map on the left-hand side, slightly to the east. It has a population of around 2.48 million people. So lots of people live in Brasilia. And there are lots of different human features like roads and shops, offices, schools, cafes and restaurants, as well as lots of modern buildings. For example, the modern building is the Metropolitana that you can see here on the right-hand side, which is the main cathedral within Brazil. So that's the capital city, Brasilia. Next, we have another city that I'm going to show you, and that's Sao Paulo. And that's located in the southeast of Brazil, and it's the largest city in the whole of Brazil. There are over 11 million people that live there. So that's about 5 times the size or 5 times the population as the capital city. So loads and loads of people living there. And it has lots of tall buildings, as you can see, with offices, different types of housing and apartments in it. And there are lots of other human features like cafes and restaurants. And there are also some really famous buildings like the cathedral that you can see in the image here. As well as on the bottom right-hand side, you have the Municipal, which is a theatre. And it's also a very famous human feature in the city of Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo is very well connected with transport. So it has its own international airport, which is very busy and has lots of different transport links to other cities and to other countries. So far, we've looked at Brasilia and Sao Paulo. What's next? Here's another city, and it is called Porto Alegre. And it's on the south coast of Brazil, so down towards the border with Uruguay. It has a population of 4.1 million. So quite a lot of people live there, and it's in the province of Rio Grande do Sul. And that province is named after the river Rio Grande, and it flows through Porto Alegre and into the sea. So it's a city on the coast. So this is exactly where the river flows into the sea, through the city and into the sea. So it's a very important port city where lots of ships come in to do trade with Brazil. So it's very famous for that. It was also one of the cities that hosted the Football World Cup in 2014. Can you remember when we spoke about that recently? And there you can see one of the stadiums there on your screen. So again, there are lots and lots of different human features within this city, including housing where people live, lots of different businesses and factories and things like the football stadium as well. So there's a brief overview of some examples of Brazilian cities. Now, we're going to have a little bit of a closer look at one city in particular, and that's Rio de Janeiro, which is one of Brazil's most famous cities. So let's have a closer look. Rio is the second largest city in Brazil. And over 13 million people live there. And many tourists visit both from Brazil and from other countries around the world every year. Now, it's very famous for its carnival. And the carnival that we looked at when we were thinking about tourism in Brazil takes place in the city. And it's a huge party where lots of people parade through the streets, dancing, playing music, wearing different colourful costumes. Can you remember I said that my brother went there? It lasts for 3 days, and thousands of people go to something called the Sambadromo, which is a huge stadium built just for the carnival. And they can watch all the parades and all the music and dance shows as well. There are also lots of different sporting events that have taken place recently in the city of Rio de Janeiro, like the 2014 World Cup. So Rio hosted the football there and also the Rio Olympics, which we looked at recently as well, where many sports people and tourists from all around the world came to either take part or watch the Olympic Games. And the city itself is full of loads of different human features, like different types of housing and hotels for tourists to stay in, things like offices and businesses, all sorts of things like that, as well as restaurants, cafes, shops, schools, universities, all of those things that we've spoken about before. So here are some of the key features of Rio. Now, here are some pictures of the most iconic or famous places within the city. So you can see the picture on the left there is called Christ the Redeemer, and that's a man-made statue of Jesus. And that stands on top of the mountain overlooking the city. Now the statue itself is 38 meters tall, so it's a very, very big statue. And it's on top of the mountain, so it's almost as if the statue is overlooking the city. And it's on top of the mountain where there's a hand-planted forest is underneath. There's kind of a forest at the bottom of the statue on that mountain. Now the picture you can see in the middle of the screen is Sugarloaf Mountain, which is a physical feature because it's a mountain that has occurred naturally. And it's an important physical feature of Rio de Janeiro. So many people like to go and visit it there each year. So it's 396 meters tall. Many people get the cable car that you can see in the image. I'm not sure if I'd like to go in that or not. They can take the cable car from the bottom, so from the city, all the way up to the top of the mountain to see the beautiful view of the city. Then on the right-hand side of the screen, you've got Copacabana Beach, which I think I'd probably rather see myself. That's a very famous beach in the city of Rio, and it's 4 kilometers long. So it's a very, very long beach, very popular with both locals and tourist people as well. So that's a little bit more information about the city of Rio de Janeiro. Now, I want you to have a think. How do you think the cities in Brazil are similar or different to the cities in the UK? So let's have a look at some of those cities in our country, in the United Kingdom. So in the UK, there are many different cities, just like there are in Brazil. And all of those cities are slightly different, just like the ones in Brazil are, but there are lots of human features that will be similar in British cities to those cities that are in Brazil that we've just looked at. For example, all of the European cities and British cities will have things like housing and offices, shops, cafes, restaurants. So all of the cities will have those features in common with cities like Rio de Janeiro and Brasilia and Sao Paulo in Brazil. However, there might be some differences, maybe to do with the physical geography around the city. For example, your chosen city in the UK might not have a mountain near it, like there are mountains near cities in Brazil, like the one in Rio de Janeiro. You might not have a beach near your city, like there is in some Brazilian cities, or you might not have a river in your city, like Porto Alegre, for example. So my challenge for you is to pick a city in the UK and think about how that city is similar or different to cities that we've explored in Brazil. So for example, I live in Dorset and my closest city is Southampton. One similarity between Southampton and the city of Porto Alegre is that they both have ports. There's also an international airport in Southampton, just like there's an international airport in the city of Sao Paulo. Another similarity is that there are lots of different schools and universities within Southampton, and that's the same in cities in Brazil. Now, if I think about a difference between Southampton and cities in Brazil, one difference between Southampton and the cities in Brazil is that there are no mountains in Southampton, like there's Sugarloaf Mountain in Rio de Janeiro. So that's a physical feature that is different between those two cities. So you're going to pause the video in a moment and I want you to fill in the gaps to compare a city that you know in the UK to cities of Brazil. As before, most of you might be able to have a go at writing this, or will be able to have a go at writing this, but if you find it tricky, then you can just say it and maybe video it. So have a go at doing that now. Okay, Well done for all your hard work today. That's the end of our lesson for this time. You've worked really hard and you should be really proud of yourselves. So please share your work with your teachers. We'd love to see your ideas. I hope you've enjoyed learning about Brazilian cities with me today. Next time, we're going to learn even more about the fascinating country of Brazil. So I will see you then. Bye.